Sure, yeah. Not a
Uh,
problem at all. I love talking.
yes.
See, I hate Mario. I don't love Mario.
Hello and welcome. This is another episode of Playstyle, the podcast. I am Ishan, and in this podcast, I try to talk to people who play a lot of games and get their stories about games on this podcast. So today, I have another guest, and I'll let him introduce what he does and which part of the world he is joining in from, and then we'll talk about games.
Yeah, thanks, Sachan. So my name is Yashwant. It's nice to meet you. I know that we haven't really officially met face to face, but I think we have a common friend in Anand. So yeah, I'm glad that we could connect like this.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's cool that like I'm meeting him for the first time, so this will be our first conversation, which is recorded. That's nice.
Yeah, that's great. Always nice to have memories saved up like this to use as blackmail later on.
Of course.
Yeah. So Anand, so I actually heard about you from Anand, who told me that, hey, my friend is interested in doing this, and you guys, Anand and I know each other through some board games we played. So I just, found out about you. I'm from India, from the southern part, from a city named Chennai, and it's really nice that we're able to, reach out to a lot of different people.
Yeah, this is fun to do.
Yeah. Where do you live, Sean?
So right now I'm in Denmark, so I'm
Denmark,
joining
okay.
from Denmark, and that's how we are sorting out the time zone issues and technical glitches as we do this. Uh, so let's talk about games. So before we start, like I'll just give you one high level thought. What is the first word that you think of when we say games? Like anything.
The first word that I think of when you say games, I honestly think of. Okay, so for me, my first ever game was actually Monopoly, right? And
Yeah.
the dice really, really suited me. Like, I like those dice a lot. They were really tiny dice, really fit into my palm of my hand.
Yeah.
I could, like, give this nice shake and then throw it out. So, whenever someone says video games, I still think of dice in my head.
Yeah. Yes, and when you like even on the emojis when you type game, one of the thing comes as dice. So yeah, it
Yeah.
still works.
Yeah, it works.
It's nice. I'm still very new to like there. It's been very few episodes, but every episode I ask this question and I get interesting answers. So I want to continue this, and it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting for me to start off.
Weirdest answer you got so far.
I don't have any weird yet. Like it's too new. I've just had 4 or
Okay.
5 episodes in. So
Alright.
probably keep listening. You will find more weird answers, and then I'll make a compilation of these answers. Yeah, and that and on that note, where you mentioned like you remember Monopoly as first game and all, like let's just go back to the beginning of how were you introduced to games. What were your fond memories about games? And by games, I mean anything. So any games you can.
Sure. Sure. So, for me, right, okay, so yes, Monopoly, chess, Snake and Ladders, yeah, they were like the standard things my parents introduced me to. But one of the things for me personally is that I always like to make games up and play with my own friends, right? And unfortunately, I lived in a place where, well, it was very stable, rent controlled, but there weren't many kids there. So I only got to play with my friends for like that few hours between classes in school. So we would make up games in our head, right? Like make up points, make up this, so on that. And when I was very young, I had a really good friend named Nishtan, and he had a Game Boy, right? And
Yeah.
it was a Game Boy Advance SP. It's like one of those things which folds in on each other,
Yes,
right? Like the
yes,
silver
I
one.
know. Yeah, right.
So even though Monopoly, chess, all of that was like my first official game, the Game Boy was the first time I ever wanted to play a game because I was obsessed with it. Like whenever I was at this guy's house, he would show me this one game, right? I don't remember which Pokemon it was,
Yeah.
but it was a Pokemon game. And I was obsessed with it. And I kept begging my parents. This is like the first time I've ever asked my parents for anything. Like, even food, I'm like, listen, I don't care. Just give me something
Yeah.
to eat. I don't mind. Right?
But you need
Even
something to play.
Yeah, no, need something to play. Even toys, I was like, okay, it's fine if I have it. I don't need it. But if you're giving it to me. But
Yeah.
this one handheld game station, right? I know it's a little selfish of me as a kid, but
Yeah,
I
but we
needed,
all were kids. Everyone has done it, so it's okay.
yeah.
No one's judging.
So I needed that more than anything else. I needed that game. So I kept begging my parents, and my mom was always the practical one. She didn't get me it at all because she said, listen, Yashwant, you're going to grow out of this. 2 years later, I was still asking. But my dad did, surprise me on my birthday. We don't really celebrate our birthdays
Yeah.
much in my household. So I was like surprised that he got me a gift. I was like, okay, dad. He took me to his closet and he opened it. And, my parents' closet is something I don't touch because, it's their stuff.
Yeah.
They don't come to my room. I don't come to their room. And I just he opens the closet and he takes out a black bag. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's going to give me some chocolates or something. That's nice. That's sweet of him. And then he pulls out a Game Boy. I'm like, what is this? Why is this out here? Why are you giving this in a black bag? It looks like a bag you carry meat in. What is this? And then he keeps pulling out a game. The first game he got me was a Pokemon Ruby. It was the red one.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pulled out the blue one. And then he pulled out another game. And then another game. I honestly thought, other than Pokemon, he didn't know what to get. So he got me like 5 random stuff.
Yeah.
Which, great.
It still works. So
It still works.
Yeah.
So I have this 6 games and I'm just holding it and he's like, so are you happy? I'm like, I don't know what to say, Dad. This is like the greatest moment of my life. And keep in mind, just like a few months ago, one of my uncles got married and they had a kid, which is great. I'm like, I don't care about that.
yeah, this is much better. Of course it is.
Right. So for a few years, it's always been a challenge for me because I love playing video games and I love thinking of the story and so on and so forth. I played hours of Pokemon and then later on I got the PSP and I played hours in that. And all this while, it's always been stories kept coming in my head. Me, professionally, I work in a healthcare startup, right? But
Okay.
my passion is writing. I like writing stories. I love creating stories.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do a lot is that I make my own stories in my head, and sometimes I share them with my friends. And we used to do this thing where they would have their characters come in the story, and we would just plan everything out.
Yeah, the more Dungeons and Dragons-y stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So
Or are we going there? Okay, I
We're
spoiled
getting
it
there.
earlier. Okay.
No, it's fine. Because I was playing Dungeons and Dragons without knowing the rules of Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't know this was a thing. I
But the
thought I
rules
made it
are
up.
exactly the rules are whatever you make it up, so it's great.
Right. But I honestly thought, till I was in 6th standard, I honestly thought that I was the first one to come up with this idea. I was like, guys, this is brilliant. Why hasn't anyone done this? And a few years later, I think this was in 10th standard or something, Big Bang Theory came out and they talked about Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, hey, what is this about? And then someone told me and I was like, this is some bullshit right here. This isn't fair. I thought of this. This
Yeah.
is not right in
I
any way
made this game.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
I made this game. This is plagiarism. I want to sue people. So it's always been this dichotomy. Video games, I love video games. It helps me escape. Honestly speaking, it's always been this, right? Video games and board games for me. And for a long time, video games held my imagination because it was easy, right? They came packaged in a world, in a lore, in a system already made. So do you remember Skyrim? I don't know whether you
Yes,
play
yeah.
video games. Right. So when Skyrim came out in 2011 and 12, the entire internet was giving up memes about it. Right?
Yeah, the memes are
And
still there.
The memes are still there, but that time, peak memes. I could not open a social media app without seeing it. I was like, what the hell is this? So I have watched so many tutorials. I had basically played through half the story by the time I actually got to play it. And one of the reasons is the only things I ever asked for my parents for is video games. That's the only exception, right? Until I, started making cash so I could buy it myself. So I begged and begged, and I think 4 or 5 years after Skyrim release in 2016, I got a PS3. Just when the PS4 came out, so I could actually afford it, saving up cash. And the first time I played that game, oh my god, I blown back. It was everything I wanted. Someone mentions a Skyrim concept to me and it makes me interested even to this day. If I'm interested, I am going to go and do an entire run through of Skyrim before I'm satisfied. That game is addictive. Like, I know this is a podcast and there's no visual element, but you can see this. So if you look over here,
Yes,
there's
I
a
can
poster
see a
of
huge poster.
right. So this thing is like as big as me, right? So I was obsessed.
Yeah,
And it was
and
such a great thing.
yeah, and that game has a lot of story built into it, which branches out in so many different ways. So that's great. And as I expected, like because you mentioned Skyrim after mentioning the story games and stuff, it's like yeah, expected. Like Skyrim would be there.
Yeah,
Yes.
why not?
So
Right. So
do you still play mostly on your console, or how does your current, like your early days were getting the Game Boy, then getting the
PSP,
PSP, and now to PlayStation. So now, like currently, how do you play? Like, what's your thing?
I have switched fully to PC,
Yeah,
right? I play on my laptop, and if I'm being completely honest with you, I do not have the time to play games because
which
of
is the
work.
problem many people have now. So
Yeah,
that's
many people
great.
have. So this is actually where there's an interesting switch, right? So for a long time, I've always been somebody who's an avid video game enthusiast, right? And but nowadays, not so much. The only game I got really, really excited for was Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
I'm sure given your profession, yeah. And the debacle that happened in it.
Yes.
So like, see, there's always been like the one game everyone is hyped about and everyone talks about, and like everyone is ready to experience it at the same time. I missed Skyrim. I missed Witcher 3.
Yeah.
I missed Spider-Man because I don't have a PS4, right?
Okay. Yes.
And right, and I wanted to buy a PS5 because PS5 could play PS4 games. So I was like, you know what, just be patient, and then scalpers happened. So I got screwed again.
Hope you
So
find a PS5 soon.
dude, I don't, I've given up. So my only hope was like, hey, you know what, 2077, it seems like a good game. I'm not going to put too much expectations in it, but I want to play it with the world, right? Like I want to experience this thing with everyone. I want to discover something that no one else has,
Yeah,
right?
it was like a cultural event in a way. Like everyone was
Right?
waiting for Cyberpunk for a really long time. It was getting delayed, and everyone's like hyping it
And
up.
yeah,
Yes.
it was a little overhyped, admittedly, right? Like now we all realize that you know what, we should have just shut the fuck up and let them do their project, and once they finish, we'll get it. But hindsight 2020, and we were just I don't know. Like for me, I was so excited because for the first time in my life, I could be a part of it, right? Anything and everything, I could be a part of it because I never was before, and it let me down. So I kind of took a step back. And this is kind of where Dungeons and Dragons come, which is now my go-to
Oh,
game.
nice.
So it was when did Endgame come out? 2019, right?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, right, 2019. So so Endgame was coming out. My friend and I were desperate for tickets, right? Very desperate for tickets. And apparently there was a competition, a cosplay competition, where people were being given premier tickets for free if you win. So we're like, okay, we need to win this. We need to do it now. And we won.
Wow.
So we
Okay.
got tickets.
Nice.
And we went, we did it and all that. And the guy who organized these events was my first ever GM, game master,
Yes.
who said that, hey, listen, I'm planning to run a Dungeons and Dragons game. Are you interested? Right? He was a friend of a friend, and we knew him all the way around like this. So I said, yes, please tell me more. And as he explained more and more, I got really hooked because I realized that, this is actually interesting. Let me give it a fair shot. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized that, hey, this is more like a set group of mechanics more than anything else. Yes, there's a ton of lore, and if you're actually interested in learning Dungeons and Dragons, honestly speaking, just stick to the surface level stuff, because unless you're really, really obsessed, you're going to drop into a hole which is 60 years deep, right? With so much of lore, so much of things, but brilliant thing about Dungeons and Dragons, you don't need to know any of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's what, like I understand, because I am not a Dungeons and Dragons player as such, but I have tried playing it sometimes. It takes a long time. Like you need to have a core group of friends, and you have to keep at it for a really long time. So
Yeah.
it's really great. Like I love the concept. Like it's super engaging. It's super interactive. It's just that yeah, maybe I would have liked it more if I had spent more time. I haven't spent enough time. That's why I would like to know, like, what is it that you like? Like you said, mechanics is one thing. Is it also the kind of story you play, or does it not matter, or how is it?
Okay, so if you like, so you're asking me, hey, how do I enjoy D&D, right? Like
Yeah, like
Dungeon. Yeah.
what interests you about Dungeons and Dragons? Like this is cool. Like this is why it makes me play more.
Sure. So okay, so admittedly, my answer is going to be way different from everyone else's because everyone enjoys it for different reason. But something which I like, and for some reason, I find like a lot of people who are happy and encouraged about it, is that they like the story that comes about when you do it.
Yes.
Because you're right, it takes a long time to actually enjoy Dungeons and Dragons because of a lot of time constraints, and to really get going, you need to work together. So for me, it was always about, hey, what type of story is going to come out of this, right? And if I'm being completely honest, it's probably the closest thing we're ever going to get to like a VR MMORPG, like a virtual reality MMORPG, because the technology just doesn't exist, and the idea of an open world game is technically still within certain limitations. The fantastic thing about Dungeons and Dragons is there are no limitations except for logical leaps, like you can't breathe fire if you're not a dragon. That's
Yeah.
just not possible. But if you want to solve a problem by being creative, by engaging the story in a different way, that you can totally do that. So for me, yeah.
Yeah, and it is completely on the game master, dungeon master itself.
Yeah,
Like the better that person is in telling the story or building the story, it is a great skill to have. Like the narration and
creative
yeah, it's
yeah.
a huge creative skill to be a good dungeon master.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And my first session, right, was actually a very long one because it was just about creating your characters and settling in, meeting each other. But the truth of the matter is, we had a lot of fun just interacting with ourselves, right? Even though basically nothing has happened. If you were to write this in a novel, it'll be one sentence,
Yes.
right? But we had a lot of fun just being there with each other, and it kind of just evolved. And to my game master's credit, that friend of mine, Aditya, he was really really good at what he did, and he researched this, he took the time, he took the efforts, and not everyone is perfect, but that dude got pretty damn close. And for me, it was a great first experience because I could actually learn what my character was as I was playing him. And I did not take this seriously at all, right? My first character, his name was Funda Tokot. Like, I don't know whether you know the Tamil slang, but Funda means fun guy. So
Yeah.
that's his name. Yeah, Funda. That's it. Fun dude. That's it. That's his name. He was just this chill guy who came out of the woods wanting for an adventure because he promised his master he would help people out, and that's it. At the end of the story, he had changed into someone completely different, a guy on a mission who's battling alcoholism, trying to be a better man, to woo a girl and save a kingdom from a freaking uh, fucking vampire. So it just evolved, right? And I could experience that growth firsthand because my actions led to it.
Yeah.
In video games, unfortunately, you have only a set group of actions. Of course, there are games where it says choices matter and all those tags, but there's only a certain group of choices which you can take.
Yeah, those choices are still in a certain
Bubble.
world, certain bubble. Yes, you can't suddenly change into anything. And if you have a
Right.
good dungeon master, you can do whatever you want in Dungeons and Dragons or similar games already. That's true. I mean, I also agree. I hope I played more of Dungeons and Dragons, but it's just the time factor that keeps me away. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it takes a lot of sessions, and you have to be at it as consistently as you would do anything else.
Oh yeah.
It's like
So
a job at a point.
it is actually. So we're moving on, right? Like, so my first session ended. It took a year to finish that campaign.
I was going to come to that. Like, how long
Yeah.
did that one campaign run?
Yeah, it took a year, and this is the screwed up part, right? For that 1 year, every one of us, we were really, really lucky because the group which we had was dedicated, right? They were like, okay, screw everything else from this time to this time, we are here. And if someone couldn't make it, we would find a way for them to at least pitch in here and there. So every Sunday from 11 to 7, 11 a.m. to 7 or 8 p.m., we would sit down and we would play. And this is pre-COVID,
Yeah.
right? So we would all sit down in the same place. We would sit down, we would play, we would maybe take a break for like an hour or something for lunch, but that's it. We did that every week, almost every week for a year. And we just managed to finish it because kind of at that point our DM was like getting like, screw you people, just finish this already.
Exactly. Like at that point, like at any point, DM can be like, yeah, but you know what? There is this another door behind, and do you want to explore it? Yes, of course.
No, we would say yes, of course, but then he realizes, oh shit, that's 2 more sessions. That's 2 more sessions. You assholes. So that's kind of what we were doing. And then COVID hit, of course, and we all had to resort to online games. And making the transition from D&D in core is a physical game, right? You have to play it physically. But, you can make the transition to online playing. And for about a year and a half now, that's what I've been doing.
Oh, nice.
I actually started my own campaign. I'm a DM for another group of people.
Oh, nice.
Right? So,
After 1 year of just being a character, being a DM might be something that you should try.
yeah, everyone should be a DM once, but it doesn't necessarily have to be what you should do because it will take a toll on you.
Can imagine. Yes.
oh
I don't
God.
envy you.
So my group luckily is also a little dedicated, right? They from 9 p.m. to around midnight, we play every Saturday night, right? So of course there are exceptions. Maybe we'll move it to a Friday or so on and so forth, but that's how it is. And luckily I managed to hold it in there for a long enough time. But after a certain point, my characters were just doing whatever they wanted. But it made sense, so I can't even fault them for it. So one of the first things that I did, right, I had this brilliant idea. I was like, you know what? These guys are going to be in a new land. They need a place to stay, and they need money. Guess what? They can join the Adventurers Guild. I can use that to introduce them to other people. What I did not consider was them taking out a loan to buy a bar.
Yes.
So,
I mean,
yeah, so
why
they-
not?
Yeah, why not? So they bought a bar in like the second session. We sat down together. The old owner had died due to an accident, which they have indirectly caused. They indirectly caused the old owner to die, to be murdered. And they kind of just took over.
Wow.
Yeah. So they just like bought it from the government and then with under a loan. And they just started running the bar. They're like, yeah, we want to run the small business now. And I had to sit down and thinking, what the fuck do I do to make the run a business now? How do I do this? So for 2 sessions I had to sit
You
down
had to
and
stop them from doing business, but letting them do business or things.
yeah, so I had to like, instead of them going out to discover all the messed up shit and getting involved in that, I had to make the outside world come to them, right? Attack their bar. The mob is attacking your bar, extorting you, asking you for money. So it is a learning experience for me. I'm not a
Nice. I mean, of course, it is a very difficult thing to do, and it's quite. You need a lot of skill to play this. That's there. And now we spoke at length about Dungeons and Dragons and these kind of the story based games. Now, because you used to play or you still play on console, on PC or whatever, how does your, like I would say, your behavior, do you think it's different to play Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, of course it is, but how can you point it out that way? If I want to play it on PC, I think about these things, that I want this kind of game to play on PC or on mobile, or when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, it's completely different. Is there something
Okay.
that you can point out?
So I can comment as a player of Dungeons and Dragons, because as a game master it's kind of okay. So let's say hypothetically we're taking a game like Mass Effect or Skyrim, because I like single player games. I don't like multiplayer games, right? Because
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was coming to that point also, that Dungeons and Dragons, when you actually play with friends, it's a super social experience. Do you have the same kind of behavior on your PC games? Do you like those social elements to it? Or like you said, you just like the single player aspect of it?
Right. So it's a big difference because in Dungeons and Dragons, if you play as a single player, you will die. Right? Either you do something stupid and there's no one to help you, or your dungeon master will be like, "Oh, okay, go ahead and enter this dungeon all alone. Please do it. Help me,
Yeah.
please." So it's a fun thing because it's kind of a paradox, right? When I'm playing video games, right, I do not want any other people I don't know. So there is a game called Dauntless, which I just got into. It's not PvP, it's PvE, players
Yeah.
versus enemy. And I like that game a lot because I have a group of friends who I play it with.
Okay.
And even when PUBG and Fortnite not really my cup of tea. PUBG also not really because I don't like that aspect of being an enemy to another player. Right? I
Interesting.
like being an ally to the other guy instead because if I'm being honest, real life is too much of us fighting each other to get a better position, a better job, a better this. I don't want to keep fighting people, man. Let us
Well,
work together here.
yes, perfect. Like getting life lessons from games is what we need, and
Yeah.
everyone does. I had an interesting conversation just before this. Probably that episode will be out before this, which was also another friend of mine telling like how playing games like Dota has helped him in his personal growth as well. So it's very interesting to see how they over time you like that affects you in some way. So that's cool. And
Yeah.
then, is there like I'll just try to flip questions
Sure, sure,
because
sure.
now we talked about yeah, this is what we like, this is cool. What is it that you would hate in the game? Not just Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about any other media as well. Like this
Loot
game.
crates.
Sorry,
No, loot crates. You
loot
have your
crates. Okay,
answer. I
okay.
can't take it. Listen, if you're going to charge me $1,000 for a game, I will gladly play it as long as you promise me you don't give that fucking loot crate. Even gacha games, I don't know whether people are familiar with gacha games because it's more of a Japanese thing, but
But
it's
most
kind of
of
the
the
same.
games have it these days. Like it's basically
Yeah,
where you have a chest to open something and you get a random reward, and that random reward is controlled by some chances. So
right.
that's there fairly everywhere, and especially in the free to play kind of games.
Yeah,
So,
I can't handle that. I'm sorry, but I just can't. I will gladly pay you the price of a full game. Alright? But when I'm experiencing that, don't make it pay to win. Because I hate that.
okay.
And I will hit you in the face. Because it's always been like that, right? Because for me, I don't mind paying for a good game because I feel like people reward, and I completely get it that hey, developers need to, this is more beneficial for a developer, and a company needs the funding, right? I get that 100%, but the fact of the matter is, I honestly feel as if you are taking away from the game when you introduce a concept like that, right? Because a game is supposed to be an experience, it's supposed to be the next level of a story, right? And because of the way games are played, it doesn't have to have a story, it just has to be fun.
Yeah.
If you put a limiter on that, you're basically breaking a bone in order to get sympathy. It's not genuine. It's you just like the pity. So
Fair. Yeah. Fair
it's
point.
maybe it's not a nice analogy, but I think it kind of communicates how I feel. I will pay the full amount if it's a AAA game amount, whatever it is. If I think it's worth it, I will buy it. I don't like pirating games. In truth to be told, whenever the moment I got in Steam, I have never actually pirated a game. But the moment I got Steam, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy this here. If it's not on Steam, I'm not playing the game. That's it.
Yeah.
Or Epic if I'm really that desperate, right? But I really, really hate gachas and loot crates. Like Genshin Impact, it's a
Yes.
very popular game nowadays. My friend obsessed with it. Guys plays it a lot, and I like it too. And there's this mechanic which guarantees a 5 star or something after you've failed, so on and so forth. It's like a measure to make sure it doesn't feel like gambling. but I do not enjoy any of those draws because I know that, hey, this is inherently wrong because does not make me feel happy. If I have to spend an hour to grind to get something, I feel like, yeah, I've earned this.
You have earned it, yes.
Right. Because that's like, it's a little bit of dopamine, the little bit of serotonin which people get when they have got an achievement. So I am, okay, this is going back to Pokemon, but I think this is a great example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when you catch all the Pokemon, when you go and get a legendary, right?
Yeah.
That joy of catching a legendary, you cannot beat it. I still remember when I first got my first legendary, it was a Groudon. First legendary I ever caught. I had ran out of all my Pokeballs. I had no Master Balls. I had 5 Ultra Balls left. 4th Ultra Ball I used, caught it. It took me an hour. I was at a friend's house. I remember that moment.
But
Right?
isn't, like, I'm not super well versed with the Game Boy Pokemon games. So isn't that also depending on a chance of which Pokemon that you catch? Or is it like you know which Pokemon you're catching and then you spend the balls?
No, you battle the Pokemon and weaken it and then you catch it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Right?
There
But
is
there's
this
still
combat element in between.
yeah, there's a combat element. You weaken it down and then you catch it. And a legendary, you know well in advance that, hey, you're going to fight a legendary at this point, get ready. Right? You can prepare for it. You build up to that moment. So, it was an achievement. But if theoretically, right, Pokemon was made today, you would have it as a draw. Like an encounter with a Pokemon, maybe the common types will be normal, but the rarer types, it would be a draw. It would be a gacha box. It would be a loot crate.
Yeah.
Right? And I hate that. I just cannot accept it. I know that, hey, it helps game developers a lot. It provides a lot
But
of
it's
money.
okay. Like this podcast is about your experiences with games, so it's okay. We don't talk about how it helps anyone or
No,
how
but
it's good or bad. Yeah.
yeah, no, that is in the back of my mind
Yeah.
though, right? Because I want people who do a good job to get the credit they deserve. But when you give me a sandwich which tastes like, okay, I hate fish. So if you give me a sandwich that tastes like fish, I'm gonna spit it out. I'm gonna say this is disgusting.
Yeah.
I just can't
Good
handle that.
analogy. Nice, interesting. And then now it's interesting to follow. Do you play a lot of free to play games, say on mobile phone or like PC or PlayStation? Like the one which are
I
not where you don't pay upfront. Because most of them have this element of gacha or the loot
Yeah.
box spin wheel, something like that. So how do you see that? Do you play it or do you not play it at all?
The only game, so I have installed a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right? I've played a lot of them because they always catch me, right? They always get me. They're like, hey, this looks fun, this looks interesting. I feel like I could have fun in this.
Yeah.
And I'm always there, but then I promise you, within 2 weeks, I'm down. Like, I've uninstalled it, I've forgotten about it. I've played more games and forgotten about than I probably have ever bought. Right?
Yeah.
The only one which is an exception is Pokemon Go. That's the only free game which kind of has like a loot box kind of thing, like you pay
Yeah.
for certain things. Like, but the only reason that's the case is because what you pay for is like a Pokeball or a potion in case you can't physically get it.
Correct.
Right? That's the only time. And expanding storage, expanding the number of things you can carry. So that's the only free to play game which I have, which I still use.
Yeah, and it's a like valid point because a lot of times the challenge for making a good free to play game is also making it so that it's accessible and it doesn't feel pay to win. Like the games which make you feel that it's you pay more and you win it, they don't do well down the line. And there have been a lot of examples in recent times of different companies trying different games, and then if this is a pay
Oh
to win,
God.
they go out. So it's okay.
No, yeah. So you know what? I'll tell you one more thing. So there's one thing which I hate a lot in these pay-to-win games. They always feature these puzzle-based things. Can you solve it? It's
Yeah.
impossible. I hate those because it makes the game feel scummy. And I don't know whether you follow this. I'm pretty sure you do. There's game theory on YouTube.
Yeah, I probably
Right.
have watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've probably watched it. So he actually is, he's done something, and one of my friends also verified this, where he went to these games and saw that the content that they've been advertising happens like only once in the entire game,
Yes.
right?
So there has been a
So,
lot of talk about this advertising and generally around mobile games, and there are some games which have been very notoriously advertising falsely. So that used to happen. It still happens to an extent. Some games are trying to solve it in some other way, but yeah, I agree. Like it was quite infuriating even when I saw like why are they doing this?
why do you need to do this? Just give me something good, be creative. Right. So there's this trend, right, where I honestly don't know whether it's just me being grumpy, but I have seen the gaming industry, and I am not an expert in any way, just a consumer, very
Yes.
active consumer, but I've seen the gaming industry becoming worse and worse as the years go by, as they have taken the joy out of a lot of the creative works that people do. Like one good example, and this is something which I love a lot because Mass Effect, the game.
Yeah.
I did not play it until 2018. All right, and one thing that I promised myself, right, even before I played this game, is that I will not watch a single spoiler about this game for Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3. Anytime anyone showed a meme, anything about Mass Effect, I would just be like, nope, right? And I continued that for years together until I could get a PS3 to play all of these games.
Yeah.
Right? I made that promise to myself because I remember how I tortured myself over Skyrim.
Correct.
And when I saw that, hey, this is a meme, the meme is of a game, the game is very popular, I was like, you know what? Screw it. No matter what, I am not going to get a single spoiler. And I did it. I managed to survive for 4 or so years without a single spoiler for this game. I finally got a PS3, and when I did, it still took me 2 years to actually get the Mass Effect games because I wanted to play all three together.
All three together. Okay.
Right. So I played 1, 2 in underneath 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, I finished 2 games, and the third one I took a little bit longer, but I managed to finish it as well. And I could, you know what an honest signal is? It's a term in mating psychology. So when a peacock ruffles its feathers, right?
Yeah.
Like a male peacock ruffles its feather, it shows how beautiful and healthy it is.
Yeah.
Appealing to the female.
Okay.
That's an honest signal, a signal that, hey, this is something which cannot be faked. This is a good thing. So people have honest signals themselves when they're doing something they're passionate about. A writer who knows what they're talking about, who's intelligent, gives an honest signal which you can really relate with. A writer, especially when they're making a story, can give you an honest signal which resonates with you. You read this, you're like, I can see the man or woman's soul in this writing.
Yeah, they
I
actually
saw-
meant it like that.
Right, exactly. You cannot fake that thing. No matter how much you pay people to do it, you cannot fake it. In Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, I saw the soul of the writer. Kind of near the end of 3, wailing off a little bit, but
it was a very controversial end. I don't know how you feel about it.
I
I haven't played it, but I was part of the whole memes going
Yeah.
on about how it ended in a very not so
pleasant way. Yeah.
pleasant way in some way. Yeah.
So no, I remember that as well. That was one of the memes I did not succeed in skipping
Yes.
because
It was
it's
all
like,
over. Yes.
Yeah, 3 different endings. I was like, what? Okay, fine, whatever. I'll play it still. So, but you could see that, hey, the person put their heart and soul into this. Same with Witcher 3. Same with Skyrim. Same with a lot of these amazing games. Even Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. It's PvP, it's online warfare, right? But I could still see the passion in the game, in the way it was made, right? You can't fake those sort of things. But then Mass Effect Andromeda came out.
Yeah, there was something new. Yeah, I didn't even check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Because the moment I saw the gameplay, right, I'm not a man who loves graphics that much. It's good, but I need to see that passion in the storytelling. That's my thing. You give me a crew of interesting, amazing people, I will buy your game 2 times over. Like Mass Effect, I have a copy on Steam, I have a copy on PS3.
Yeah.
right? Same with Skyrim, and also something else I don't remember.
Yeah.
Pokemon, I think. So I will buy your games how many ever times I want. I don't care. So, but in Mass Effect Andromeda, I actually went to a store outside, like one of those game stores, right? And I
Yeah.
played the game on their station. I didn't actually buy it because I had an odd feeling. And I didn't like it at all. I couldn't feel like, hey, this kind of feels sucky,
Yeah.
right?
I think it also is the problem with when it comes to movies and those kind of things which are getting extended for just because you want to make money out of it, like which is a
Right.
fair reasoning from the business standpoint. But when you look at it from the person who actually enjoys that
Wants
kind
to
of
do it
content, like they will feel that it's now it's a little too much
too
or
much.
you don't need it. Yes.
Another example, Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
The man who wrote Assassin's Creed, the writer for the video game, I do not remember his name. He wrote 1, 2, Brotherhood, and I think he wrote part of Revelations, right? And then he got fired from Ubisoft. Now, with the exception of Assassin's Creed 4, every other Assassin's Creed to me has kind of been bland, right? So other than Black Flag, everything else from that point forward, it loses a little bit of itself. And you can see it in the storytelling. Now I'll be honest, I actually bought Assassin's Creed Unity, right? And
Yeah,
that's the
I
fifth
know.
one, right?
I have lost track of the numbers, but I know,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
which one.
So I like it. I like the idea a lot.
Yeah.
But the moment I started playing the game, there was something missing, right? It was not as interesting. Like, all the story beats are the same. A guy gets betrayed, he wants to get justice, joins the Assassin's Brotherhood, is fighting the Templars, so on and so forth. But the mechanics changed, right? There were so many cosmetic things. You had to buy skills. What the fuck? I can't learn skills. I have to buy them. I mean, at least it's not real world currency. It's in world currency. But how does that make any sense? And as the games apparently are going, I learned that it's becoming more and more of an RPG game.
Yes,
And
it is now
that's
way more RPG than it was in the early
a
days.
stealth game, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. I love RPG games like Skyrim, RPG, right? I love RPGs, but that's not what Assassin's Creed is, right? You promised me a stealth-based game, which is a story-driven game, which is heavily inspired by real events, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right? And you're giving me this? I mean, what the fuck, man? Why? I don't need this. Like, put this under a different name. Whatever. If you want to do this, do that. But give me Assassin's Creed too, dude.
Interesting. So now, like you have played these games, you have like tried so many. If you were to try something new, like a new game that you don't really play, like that doesn't have a story or something on the mobile phone or something, what would interest you to try it out? Like I'm just randomly putting out this question. Like, say if there is a X game, new game which is coming out, and I want to make you try that game out. What would you see first that, oh, I'm sold, I want to try it out, even for 2 weeks or so?
Okay, so honestly speaking, it has to be the story. I'm
Okay.
sorry, but
Yeah,
everything
perfect.
has to be the story. See, I hate Mario. I don't. Okay, so I don't love Mario.
Oh, I should just cut this segment and put it at the beginning, and I have virality. Good.
Yeah,
Great.
sure. I hate every single Mario game ever. I don't know why, but I find it pointless. Okay, because the characters are iconic. Like freaking when 2020 Tokyo Olympics came, they
Yes.
wanted to make Mario one of the mascots. I don't know whether I'm remembering that right.
I think so. Yes.
I think so. Yeah, sure. But I don't like that at all. I haven't tried Mario Odyssey, that apparently has more of a story. But a game like that, which is no purpose, I will enjoy from time to time, absolutely. But if there's no story about it, I don't find it interesting. I'll tell you one thing. So Sonic is kind of the same range here, right?
Kind
Like
of, yes.
Sonic, kind of. So I've played the original Sonic, I've played the rebooted, so on and so forth. They're fun for a while, but I never complete them. and I don't care that I haven't completed them.
So
Usually,
the story is the hook that gets you to complete through levels or stages or
everything.
whatever it is.
Right. I'm not one of those completion maniacs either. I'm not like I have to get 100% in each level. I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. Where does this go next? Right?
Yeah.
If I have to do something to unlock more of the story, yeah, I'll do it. I'm like, oh, I have to get 50% to unlock a bonus stage. I'll do that. Tell me what happens.
Okay.
And there are these times where I have to like get 100% in one particular level to get a ranking, to get a bonus stage, like to which adds to the story. I will do that. I'll spend hours doing that. Not a
So as
problem.
long, yeah, it's an interesting point. As long as there is a story hook that kind of interests you to push or to achieve that kind of goal, that okay, this is letting me engage with some story, even though it's the same kind of level or whatever it is, it's just progressing me on a story path in some
Story
way.
based, right? So yeah, Sonic. So there was this one game, in the Wii, you remember the Wii,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, the handheld thing. There was this one game called Sonic and the Black Knight. I think it's one of the lowest rated Sonic games ever. It is, however, the only Sonic game I have almost completed. Alright,
Yeah.
I borrowed my friend's Wii. I played that one. I played two games, but this one game I sat down and played for 8 hours. I had almost finished it, and that is the only Sonic game I've actually enjoyed. And that has a good story. It's
Correct.
about Sonic with a sword. Alright, so that's the only
Sounds
thing I
great.
enjoyed. Yeah, it's Sonic with King Arthur's Excalibur. So I'm like, yeah, this is me. I go. Everyone else, go away. This is what I need.
Okay.
Right. So for me, if a new game was to come out, I need a story more than anything else in the world. I honestly don't remember any new games which has excited me to that level.
Correct.
I think Marvel has released this new multiplayer game called Future Fight something, right? It
They have
looks
a
really
Strike Force, which is a different kind of game, but yeah.
Yeah. So it looks fun, it looks interesting, but when I saw it, I was just disappointed. I was like, I don't care about any of this. There's no proper story here. You're just, you know, getting a game where you can have different heroes, try different costumes, and do it. Maybe there is a gameplay trailer which I haven't seen. Maybe that will change my mind. But all the footage I've seen so far makes me think like this
Is
isn't
it the
interesting.
one on the PlayStation which came
No,
out
it's a
recently?
mobile
The
game.
Avengers one.
No, no, no,
New
I know
mobile
what you're
game.
talking.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new mobile game.
Okay.
No, the one which you're talking about, I've actually seen, and I was not interested or impressed at all.
Yeah. I can understand. I also watched some part of it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I didn't not really excited
Not
about
for
it.
me. I'm sorry, but like I like a game where the Avengers have been like broken apart and they have to get back together. But you give me this BS of I don't know. It was just like I said, right? The heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
The person who made this
That was
was
a yes, very very interesting point, and that kind of gives you the idea of once any pop culture item that becomes like when you are extending it, you kind of people can realize the actual
you
fans
put
can
in the
realize
effort.
that whether it's just because he wanted to extend it or because it was something that needed it like that.
Great example, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, when that movie came out, no one heard about it.
Yes.
I am an avid Marvel fan. Like, I have literally watched every single Marvel movie from the Avengers in the theater on the first day, first show. The only movies I haven't is Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Black Widow. That's the
Okay.
only ones. Everyone else, I've seen it in the movie first day, first show. No exceptions. I once had a job and I called in sick just so that I could watch Far From Home. Right?
Makes sense. Like
Yeah,
that's what you
right.
do when you like some thing so much. So
Right. So I love it, and I'm one of those people who really I see the passion in certain things. So when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no idea who these guys were. I honestly did not know that movie was coming out a week until it was coming out. Like I had not heard anything about it. I was just completely zoned out. I didn't know who these guys were, and I heard, okay, Marvel's releasing a new movie. I was like, sure, let me go watch because it's Marvel. And I could see James Gunn's soul in each and every frame, each and every character. He put his heart and soul into this, and that's why the Guardians became such a good team that the Avengers, which had so many movies which led up to them, they kind of came onto the same pedestal.
Yeah.
It took one movie for James Gunn, who's that passionate, to reach the level of the Avengers. Of course, Avengers a little more, but still.
They have more branding, I would say. So,
right, they have more
of course.
branding, but the Guardians is like just a bunch of dudes who came together, and it was so well done.
Yeah, that's a great point, and like we spoke throughout this, like it was a thing that story based stuff is really cool. There is a good hook to it. If you have a good story, you can get people hooked on or get more engaged. But at the end of the day, getting that point of you actually care about that story is the difficult part, and it's rare. Like even if there are so many games coming out, so many movies also, since we were talking about it, it is rare to find that makes you hooked on to one particular thing for a long time. So
yeah, that's right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be very complex, because Dark Souls, right? It's a very complex, lore-heavy game.
yeah.
I've played it. It's very hard, but I've completed like quite a few levels. But I was never hooked, because the person who I was playing was just an emotionless husk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? For me, I didn't like that a lot. Of course, there are certain games like Skyrim where you are playing an emotionless husk.
Yeah,
essentially.
It's kind of the same guy. Like you have nothing to say.
Right, but the characters around him, the side characters,
world, yes.
that is alive. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag here and there.
Yeah, perfect. Like really cool. I think we spoke a lot about a lot of story heavy games, and before we take it to the wrap, like if there is something you would suggest anyone to go give it a try, like if there is a story based game that you like, or someone who doesn't know much about these games wants to try it out, what would you suggest? Anything new, old, whatever.
Okay, so honestly speaking, I'm not that good of a suggester, because I don't know that many games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't, and
from the ones you have played, or maybe something that you're currently playing and liking. Like if there is something recent that, like you said, you're playing for 2 weeks and then forgetting about it. What is the current 2 week thing that you're playing?
Nothing so far. But I would recommend Dungeons and Dragons, because
spend your 2 years in it.
Yeah, spend your 2 years in it, but see, it really, really hits the nail on the head for people who are interested in it. The chances of you having the time, energy, people, so on and so forth, is rare. I would say maybe 40% of the people could have the time, energy, resources to actually play the game and enjoy it. But if you can, that is your game, right? That is nail on the head. That is your game. You don't have to worry about playing something else.
Yeah, right? Then you just have sorted for life, basically. You can keep doing stories forever.
Right. So I don't know whether I can. So basically, I have gone so obsessed. I have Dungeons and Dragons cards over here. I have the playbooks right underneath my desk. I don't think I can move the camera. But I have the books right here, like right here, where my office is supposed to be. I've stuffed my tables full of Dungeons and Dragons.
Good office space. Like what else do you need office for? Of course.
What the space? And I have a little bag full of dice, Dungeons and Dragons dice. I collect them. So I would say really give it a shot and don't go too deep in it. Honestly speaking, you need 3 things. 1, a cursory understanding of the rules. You just need to know how it's played, nothing more. And even then, all the rules of how it's played, you don't have to really listen to them if you don't want to. You can just stop. Yeah. Like if you say, this is boring, I'm not doing it, you can just skip it.
Like the couple of times I have tried it, after some time of rule explaining, I'm like, just let it be. We just play. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out on the way.
I didn't come here to read. I came here to roll rocks. I came here to do the numbers, not to read. Yes.
And
I
it's the
understand.
same with a lot of board games as well. Like other than Dungeons
Yeah.
or Dragons, it's also the board games where some of them take a really long time to be explained or read through, and then you have a really fun time once you understand it.
Right, right. I actually have quite a few board games as well, other than Dungeons and Dragons. Splendor is a very good game. There's also Century Spice, Cards Against Humanity, if you
Yeah,
like
of
that.
course.
Yeah, sure, why not? And there's a game called Coup, Coup.
Yes.
All of them are classics. They're very good games. But again, if I have to give one good recommendation, try Dungeons and Dragons because honestly speaking, if anything I've said connects with what you look for in a game, or hey, it sounds like hey, this kind of sounds interesting, that's your game.
Yeah, of course.
You
And yeah, everyone listening, go give Dungeons and Dragons a try and spend rest of your life in a dungeon, finishing missions.
Yeah. Oh, right. I almost forgot. So I said three things you need. First,
Yeah.
basic understanding of the rules.
Yes.
Second, a piece of paper. Third, a pencil. That's it.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, that's
All
true.
you need.
It's
You
the least
literally-
effort game, but you
Literally
can.
nothing else. Everything else is optional. In Dungeons and Dragons, there's one rule called Rule Zero. Basically, the Rule Zero is if you don't like any of the other rules, you can ignore it. Right? It also, there's another translation. The Dungeon Master's word is law. Meaning, if the Dungeon Master say, hey, this is fine or this is not fine,
Yeah.
you shut up and you accept it.
Yes,
That's it.
and that's where the whole dungeon master it's being the god of the game, right? And you are building the
He's
game as you go, which is
exactly.
oh nice. It was great talking to you. We have lot of recording, and thank you for being part of my early experimentation with this podcast and sharing your playstyle with us. So,
Sure, Ishan, not a problem.
and for others who are listening, I mean, do all the like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. The podcast is available wherever you're listening, all platforms. Rate it, do stuff so that more people listen to it.
And,
And yeah,
please-
and I will say, like, if you have anyone else who likes games, they need not be as story heavy and lore heavy as Dungeons and Dragons. Any games, like, write to me and we will talk about it. I'll use you for my experimentations.
And do not take that voice clip of me saying I hate Mario and spread it around. That will catch fast.
I hope it does. At least I get some listens. Okay, cool. Thanks, Yash, and
Not a problem.
bye.
Alright, take care. Bye.